Yeah, nobody can hear me over this machine. It kicks out 107 decibels, so I'm recording the voiceover in my studio. I bought this Einhell BG-KS 2040 chipping shredding machine second hand, and as you can see, it's needed a repair. The plastic where the lower frame inserts into the plastic body had just got quite brittle, and I had to replace it with a wooden contraption, which makes the chipper a little bit more laid back than it should be, so it doesn't eject the chippings probably quite as well as it ought to, and maybe I get a bit more collecting inside it than I should, but it's not had any trouble with clogging up with chippings. I've been using it for probably about 4 half-hour or 40-minute sessions and not really had much trouble at all. I've managed to jam it a few times, but generally by putting stuff through that's got too much leaves on it and that's got stuck in the input rather than it actually getting stuck on anything that was too thick for it. And I've been putting through reasonably thick stuff, certainly thicker than my thumb. It's supposed to be able to chip up to 4 centimetre thick stuff, but I think that might depend on what kind of wood it was. If it was a soft wood, it's got a much better chance of shredding that than if it's a dry hardwood. There's a handy pair of wheels on the stand, and the stand has a space underneath for a box, but I've found it works a lot better just with a plastic sack and a bungee cord to hold it on. When I've tried using it with a box underneath, a lot of the chippings have ended up not in the box. And the plastic sack also makes a really good cover for the unit if you're keeping it somewhere where it might get dripped on. I will say when you're rolling it around, it doesn't feel super stable, it tips over quite easily. You definitely need personal protective equipment when using this. I would say you will need eye protection and ear protection because it's so loud, and also some really padded gloves. I'm using motorbike gloves, which works quite well. Not only because you might be handling stuff that will cut your hands, I'm handling a lot of climbing roses, which are really my nemesis, and also some really nasty, spiky, thorny stuff. But also, when the impact of the chipping disc hits the stuff you're feeding through, that can give you quite a jolt on your hands. So I really would recommend protecting yourself because you'll get injured. That said, the hole for putting the stuff in should be small enough and the blade's far enough down that you can't get your hands in and get them shredded. If my girlfriend's listening to this, she'll probably see that as a challenge for who's got the smallest hands competition and try and get her hands down there. Unjamming it is quite easy. You can see here I've got some Leylandii stuck. It's the leafy end of the Leylandii that's got stuck. It's managed to thick end fine. I need to undo this screw thing, which for obvious reasons takes a lot of unscrewing because you don't want to be able to open that whilst it's spinning. I think it won't start unless that's done up properly, but I'm not going to try it. And also, while we're in here, the blades are sharpenable, they're removable and can be sharpened, and a brilliant bit of design there. They've got double edges, so once one side is blunt, you can switch them around and use the other side. And then when they're totally blunt, you can take them out, give them a sharpen, use them again. You can also get compatible and presumably genuine replacements too, so that's really good. It's quite easy to get into and quite easy to clear out. On the power side, it draws 2 kilowatts, which is quite expensive on the pocket to run. And also, if you're going to be using this on an extension lead, which is quite likely, you'll need to make sure your extension lead is rated for that kind of wattage. And keep an eye on the prongs of your plug to make sure nothing's overheating. And also the wire itself, that could easily overheat and start melting, which you really wouldn't want. I'd say for any shredding machine, you'll need to prepare your material. Some stuff is just the wrong shape to go through the hole, or just too thick to shred. So you'll need to cut off the bits to give yourself stuff that you can push through. And I'd recommend doing that in advance, so you're not sitting there running a 2 kilowatt shredder whilst you're messing around with secateurs or loppers. Or have a friend to do that for you whilst you're shredding, but they'll probably need some ear protection as well, at least. It works well on long branches, dry, long twigs, thorny, awkward shaped stuff, Leylandii, sort of dampish stuff, dry stuff, those terrible climbing roses. I think it's not made in Germany, it's a German brand. Einhell has a good reputation, I think. The weight of the thing is 12.5 kilograms, just over 12.6 kilograms. I guess that's with the stand as well. And the stand does come off, so you could easily put it in a car. I don't know if you could use it off the stand. I don't know, you'd have to rig up some other way of holding it. It comes with a plastic pusher, which is just short enough to not reach the blades. My top tip for that is to put it on a short piece of string, so you don't have to keep bending down to the ground to pick it up. Obviously be careful not to push the string through into the blades. I'm not an experienced user of chippers and shredders, this is the first one I've ever used. But I'm pleased with it. I've not managed to jam it on anything that's too thick for it. It takes a while to shred stuff. If you've got a wood burner, if you've got any chippings that are actually big enough to be worth burning, you might as well warm your house for free with it rather than spending money on 2 kilowatts of electricity to shred it. Here are the chippings that come out of it. The Leylandii is not shredded down totally, the green leafy bits are still green and leafy, but everything else I've put through it has turned into some quite small chippings. I'm going to try composting this, but you could try it as a mulch as well. The main reason I got this chipper was because I've got this huge pile of stuff that was meant to be a bonfire, and it's never been dry enough to actually light up properly. So I figured chipping it was the next best option. Shame to wait for a hot, dry day, make a load of heat that you don't really need then, and lots of smoke. So to finish off with, here's a bit more shredding action. And I would recommend this, with the obvious proviso that I've not tried any other ones. But I'm satisfied with it. It's doing the job nicely. But it does take a while to put everything through. It's not something that you can just throw huge things into. You've got to push things through and prepare things for shredding. That said, I got it for £30 second hand, as opposed to several £100 for one of the more powerful, larger throated shredders.